Moshi Moshi.
Hello,
I'm Zeb Ramsbotham,
and I'm Annie Ramsbotham.
and we're the Rambling Ramsbothams.
Our journey might be rambling, but we hope this podcast isn't. And
Special day.
yeah, hopefully you can't tell any difference in audio quality, but we're recording from a new room.
Yeah, there will probably be some differences in audio quality. So in this episode and maybe the next, I'll be working through it. But yeah, we just kind of decided that we wanted to buy like a little bit of furniture from a secondhand store.
Because
So
we have a car to transport it now.
Yeah, so it was a fun experience, but we thought we have this room in our apartment that kind of was like the bike room / boy cave.
Yeah.
And it's where I have my computer, and I spend most of my time in this room. And I guess Annie wanted a piece of the real estate, so now I have to share with her.
Seemed fun in there.
Yeah, it's a good time.
And also the bikes took up like 75% of the room for no reason. So we scooted them all
easy
into
access.
one. Yeah. It's a little harder
easy to get to 'em.
get the bikes out, but now we have a whole third of a room open to be cozy in.
Yeah, so we kind of switched our podcasting setup, and this is going to be the first episode recorded in our new setup. And then there's something else happening. I feel like I'm being watched.
We're recording it on video to see how we do. And then maybe we'll upload it to YouTube. I mean, that's the goal, so that we can have some video to go with the audio for anybody that is a visual podcast watcher.
Yeah, because I know I'm occasionally a bit like that in terms of video podcasting.
You know,
like I like watching some podcasts.
You know when you watch a podcast that you've only ever listened to before, and the podcast hosts that you've been listening to look completely different from what you pictured? You know?
Yeah.
That, sorry if you thought I looked different. This is it.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I guess with like Instagram and stuff like that, most people probably know. Yeah. I was going to say it's not hard to figure out what we look like.
Well, yes. So this week on our new and improved formatting, this episode we're going to be talking about, I don't know if you just heard this car like take out the manhole cover down there.
No, it's the grates for the like the channel for all the water on the side. Yeah, people slam those all the time, and there's one in particular that sometimes I go down there and it's like totally bent or like thrown off. And I just wonder how they don't get flat tires.
Well, anyway, we're talking about earthquakes because we had some pretty big earthquakes here in the Noto Peninsula this week, 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then we're also talking about bikepacking and strawberry picking. So I guess let's talk about earthquakes first.
Or do you just want to start with a real quick, like, we can talk about the reviews?
Oh, yeah. So that's a good idea. Because last week, it was at the very end, and I know sometimes I'll start a podcast and not listen to the end. So up top, let me tell you about a giveaway that we're doing that has to do with reviews. So I'm going to read 2 reviews that we got. And if you write us a review, we will send you a frog postcard that was hand painted in watercolor because...
Well, Annie, we'll send you a frog postcard.
I'll send it, and Zeb sends his love too.
I'll touch it. I'll just...
But kaeru means to return, and it is the word for frog. So frogs are good luck because it's like you're returning home or good luck is returning to you. And so if you leave us a review, we'll send you a little bit of good luck from Japan.
Yeah.
So
we'll return some good luck to you.
Yeah.
In exchange.
I recently sent a postcard to Maggie because she says she loves hearing about Japan adventures. Her review says, I started listening to the podcast after returning from a trip to Japan, and I've enjoyed getting to learn about the moving process. I usually put this podcast on as I'm working, and it's a really nice way to learn about the experience of moving abroad and also listen to fun stories about the activities and places within Japan to visit. That's so kind.
That was very nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Maggie.
I wonder where you went on your trip. You can email us, and I'm curious.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, Zeb, you can read this other one, which I feel kind of bad about.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was put in, like, the end of November, and I never saw it because we don't get notifications. Now I'll check.
It is really strange. Apple doesn't give us notifications or anything. Neither does Spotify, although you can't leave a written review on Spotify.
Oh, there's an earthquake right now.
Yeah, teeny tiny one.
So the room's like kind of rippling.
Yeah. So Johnson said, "Thanks guys for sharing your stories of life in Japan. Japan is definitely on my bucket list of places to visit and hope that I make it there one day. And then until then, I'll just live my vicarious life in Japan by listening to you guys." And he just says he loves hearing stories of exploration by bike riding, but will not be satisfied until we post a story about staying in one of those crazy micro hotels or sleep pods.
The capsules.
Yeah, which we've never done. So sorry, Johnson.
There's something to look forward to. Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't done that because it's not as big of a savings, I guess, for us because we always travel together. So, I mean, I guess maybe one time for the experience, we should rent 2 separate pods just to like
talk to each other through the walls.
Yeah, just to get the experience.
How's your pod?
But yeah, maybe we'll look at that because there is one in Kanazawa.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about bike packing today a little bit, but
that's kind of like sleeping in a pod.
Kind of, if you bring a tent, which our friend's doing. But first,
speaking of
earthquakes.
Oh, yeah.
Do I want to what?
Well, I don't know if you wanted to explain the furniture situation, the experience.
Describe the scene.
Well, I mean, you don't have to describe the scene, but how was it picking up all the furniture in the K car?
Well, it fit. I was shocked. And if you aren't watching this video that we may or may not release, I'm sitting on this mini couch, like kind of it's the size of
it's like a love seat, kind of, but it looks like a couch.
It's the size of like 2 armchairs together, I guess. And it came with this coffee table sized footrest, which is nice. And Zeb's sitting in a cozy little chair that has it's like a wooden frame armchair.
Yeah. I feel fancy.
Yeah. And we have a coffee table that we already had the coffee table. And then we did buy a lamp.
Yeah. Although we did buy a second. We bought a new table, but
it was too
big for this room. So we moved our smaller table in here.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, if you're feeling adventurous and we do post this video, if you look at it, you should send us an email and let us know what you think the most expensive piece of furniture in the setup was.
Yeah. One of these pieces was about $33 and one of these pieces was about $70. And I don't think you'll be able to guess which one was which.
Well, you probably will be able to.
Well, now that we've hyped it up, but anyway, it's kind of fun to sit on a couch while we record.
And it's nice just to have like another area in our house that we can sit and read or kind of do whatever we want. It's nice to have, this little spot.
Yeah.
So you can probably hear me like wriggling around in my
chair. And I'm
chair.
trying not to touch the new like microphone arm
Yeah, we bought
stands.
these new microphone arms, but we went mega cheap. We did not get the nice ones.
They were like $20.
No, they were like
together.
$6 each.
Oh, really?
So they're like, less than $15.
Not even worth the parts. That's insane.
No. And they actually do, I mean, they work. They hold the microphones, but if we touch them, I feel like
they'll explode.
Not explode, but definitely all the sound will just go straight into the microphone. So if you ever hear a loud rumbling, it's either an earthquake or it's us touching the microphone arm.
Touched the microphone.
Yeah.
Well, the earthquakes. I didn't know very much about earthquakes. I still don't. But
yeah,
the last week, May 5th, that was the first earthquake that was significant that I've ever felt. It was kind of terrifying.
Because we felt one before, and it was, very small.
It just kind of like jostles the room.
Yeah. It did a little bit of shaking.
Probably some water in a glass would be like shaking, but nothing would fall over or anything. But the one that was last week, it was a 6.5 on the Japanese Shindo Scale of 7.
Was it 6.5 or 6.3?
It was a 6. That's a good question.
They call it upper 6, which makes me want to think it's above 6.5, but I swear I read it was 6.3.
Oh.
But then everyone keeps calling it upper 6, and I'm like, well, wouldn't that be lower 6?
The article I saw was 6.5, which is barely upper 6.
Yeah.
But that was in Suzu. The epicenter was in Suzu, which is the very tip of the Noto Peninsula that we're on the very base of the peninsula, and this was like all the way out at like the end of the land. And so by the time it like rippled to us, it was a 3 on the scale.
Yeah. It might have been like Yeah, at most a 3. Because I don't know why, but maybe it's just because so Uchina is technically an island and we're loosely connected to the land by bridges. But even in Kanazawa on the like map I look at, their intensity was higher than ours.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just because we're built on a sand dune, so the sand helps absorb the shaking. I don't know.
Well, if you're listening to this and you're like, that doesn't make sense why there were different levels, different places, that's because Japan, and apparently just Japan and Taiwan, use the Shindo scale.
Well, also the levels it would be the same in the US because as the shaking, like as the seismic wave goes away from the epicenter, it gets weaker. So that's why it was like even on the US geological scale. But yeah.
Well, I was reading that the magnitude scale, which is the Richter scale that we use in the US, it measures the amount of energy released at the epicenter.
Yeah.
So like the largest one ever recorded was the one in Chile in 1960, and that was a 9.5. And so that was like labeled as a 9.5 earthquake, even though just at the center it was a 9.5, of course. But then in Japan, and maybe they do this other places and I just didn't know, but they use a 1 to 7 scale, and it's a seismic intensity. So instead of it being the amount of energy at the middle, it's the degree of shaking at a certain point on the Earth's surface. And
yeah, which is kind of...
It seems very similar.
Yeah, I think they're saying the same thing, but the Japanese scale is literally just telling you, like, here's what it felt like, which I guess kind of makes sense.
Yeah, like 6 apparently is difficult to walk.
So I thought about this when it happened. The teacher that I teach night classes with, her family is from Wajima. And so she was in Wajima. She told me that she was going to Wajima for Golden Week. And so she was there when the earthquake happened.
Scary.
And she said she was talking to her sister in their kitchen. And she said the earthquake happened and she knew like she should get underneath the kitchen table.
Yeah.
But she said it was shaking so much, like she couldn't do anything.
Wow.
She was like, was trying to move, but because the ground was shaking so much, she couldn't. And
That's so
I mean,
crazy.
that is what it says. It says like
unable to move.
Yeah, 6 is like you won't be able to control your body or something like that.
That's
which
so
is
scary.
Yeah.
It was not. I mean, it was scary just for it to be happening where we were, but it was not like that. But
yeah.
I texted some friends. I mean, we just met recently, like one time, but they're in the JET program, and one is in Wajima and one's in Suzu actually. And I was like, we just met last week, but I was thinking about you guys, and are you okay?
Yeah.
And luckily they are both fine. Though the one that is living in Suzu said that her, like the water line in her apartment broke, but they're fixing it. And like, that's the only thing that is an issue that she said.
That's a bummer, because I was just talking to our friend who's visiting how impressive it is that stuff doesn't happen more often with how many earthquakes are here.
This was a pretty big earthquake though.
Well, yeah, because I mean the max is 7.
Well, yeah.
So
it's intense.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there was one death from the earthquake up in Suzu. He was like, a man was on a ladder, and so he fell off, which is unfortunate. But then 22 other people did have to go to the hospital, but they recovered. A couple people were trapped in their houses, and they got them out, and they're fine, just injured. And then there was no tsunami. There was like a very small.
I read that there was a tsunami, but it was 10 centimeters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, practically nothing. But, yeah, it was interesting because when I got to work on Monday, I went on the newspaper that I like to read, and there were like 4 different articles about the earthquake.
Yeah, the most scary part was the anticipation of it, because, I mean, there was like 3 seconds probably where we were sitting in the living room, you and I and our friend who's visiting, and both of our phones just started going wild.
Well, his
like,
did too.
Really, really loud. His did?
Yeah.
Oh, because he has his American phone just turned on.
Yeah, yours
over
was
here.
like in the bedroom.
Yeah, and I was like, what is happening? And then it was like, earthquake's coming.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay.
Which is interesting because that one, it does just warn you, and then it tells you. But I have this other app, and the other app gives you like a countdown. So it was interesting because I opened the other app, and it was like,
it's so accurate.
Like 6 seconds, it's going to start shaking.
Yeah.
And so we kind of like looked at it, and of course we didn't know like how much is it going to shake.
Well, we should have probably gotten under the table, but all 3 of us couldn't have fit under the table. And then also our table is next to like bunch of windows. So I don't know how safe that would be.
There's glass
anyway.
everywhere.
But you are supposed to cover you're supposed to get down and get under cover so that if things.
I guess Kyle could have stretched out and laid underneath our, our
laid under,
new table.
Prone underneath the couch, I thought you were going to say.
No, like I was going to say our new table, but yeah, half of them would stick out. But.
Yeah. Yeah, so apparently what you're supposed to do is get low and get under the table, and you're supposed to avoid doorways because the doors could like slam shut on you.
Oh, that makes sense.
And you're supposed to avoid windows, like bookcases that stuff could fall, or cabinets where stuff could fall out. Elevators.
You're not supposed to.
I would never get an elevator, but I guess if you're panicked, don't think of that.
You're like old. Maybe you think the elevator is going to be faster than walking.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it would be. But
and if you're outside, you should get away from the coast, which I guess that makes sense because of the risk of rising water after the earthquake. And you should get away from like power lines, like if you're outside, in case any of those fall. Yeah. That's actually really hard to do in Japan. There's a lot of power lines in our neighborhood.
Because I guess ideally you just want to be in a field.
Yeah.
Because trees could fall down, like anything could fall down.
Yeah, the earth isn't going to like open up, so you would hope.
Hopefully.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. But it was funny because our friend that's staying here, he had just been asking us about like if we had felt an earthquake and what do you guys do during an earthquake and what's it like? Because he thought, I guess in America you do hear a lot about Japanese earthquakes. So he thought it was just something that we were dealing with all the time.
Well, we have several, but they're like very minor.
Yeah. We've only really felt that one. And then I get alerts on my phone that other areas get them, but...
Yeah, this one, a couple things like fell off like the bathroom counter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was strong enough for that, but not strong enough for like anything else to fall off.
Yeah, and our doors
were swaying.
Sway. Yeah.
It's just so weird.
And now it's, I guess they call them like swarm earthquakes because I guess like one big thing kind of happens and then they're also like aftershocks, but for whatever reason. And also they really like the word trembler.
Yeah.
Have you ever really used that word?
No, but my friend was like, "Are you okay after the trembler?" And I just thought it was like a cute nickname she had for it.
Yeah, no, like in the newspaper I read, they always talk about the tremblers.
Interesting.
And I'm like, what? What is a trembler?
Maybe it gets translated like that.
No, because they also say earthquake.
Oh.
But then they'll say trembler.
I was asking my friend.
No idea what that means.
About how, like in America, we have tornadoes. They're not very common in Western North Carolina, but the U.S. generally, I feel like, has a lot of tornadoes compared to other countries.
Like we get the most tornadoes in the world.
Especially in like the tornado alley, and then they got the storm chasers. They go out and look at them. But I was saying that, of course, we would do tornado drills in school and stuff and like put our heads down in the hallway or whatever. But they would tell you, or they at least told me, you're supposed to get in the bathtub. Like not with water in it, but you're supposed to get in the bathroom and sit in the bathtub if there's a tornado and like put something on top of you, like a mattress or something. Did you ever get that advice? And she was like, get in the bathroom.
I feel like I've heard that before, but that's just so... Well, I guess with the tornado, typically sometimes you have more warning.
The best case...
So you could do that. I can't just, like... Not everyone has a bathtub, first of all, and then imagine trying to drag your mattress in there.
Well, okay. I guess you should just get a pillow
or something in the center, like the central part.
I guess that's the same idea.
Your house.
Because your bathroom is usually like not next to a window.
Or you just go in the basement.
Well, the basement's the very best option, but like if you didn't, like we don't have a basement right now.
Well, no.
I think a lot of people don't, but.
Yeah, I don't think in Japan basements are a thing. I can't imagine that. Like in a shopping mall, you can go into the basement, but.
Well, we made it. And then the first thing I did was text my mom because I was like, because of the time difference, we were about to go to bed. So the first one happened in the afternoon and we went out to dinner and we came back and the aftershock happened that night, which was at the epicenter. It was just under a 6 and it was like weaker, but it was just as like frightening. I guess it was less frightening because it had happened before and I was like, well, the apartment's fine with that strong of a thing. So it should be fine. But I was like, well, we're going to go to bed, but I'm going to text my mom in case somehow like she watches the Japan news and she's panicked and I'm not responding. But everything was completely fine here.
Yeah, I was going to say the one that we just felt like towards the beginning of this podcast was so this is interesting because I think this is giving me the magnitude and the intensity. It says magnitude 5, max intensity 4. So I think the intensity is like the shaking level.
That definitely didn't feel like a...
No, that was like at
over
the epicenter.
like away, it was a 5.
I think here it was like a 2.
Yeah, it was just kind of like rocking a bit.
Yeah, but I can understand, like, there were a bunch of articles in the newspaper where they're interviewing people, and, you know, it causes this, you know, kind of existential dread.
Well, yeah,
because you don't know when it's going to happen, so you're just kind of hanging out.
And it reminds you how, like, powerful the earth is, like nature.
Yeah, it really does. It makes sense why, I guess, Shinto is like an animist religion, and why there are so many things in, like, Japanese pop culture about kind of, you know, the land being alive. Because you think about, like, volcanoes and avalanches and landslides and tsunamis. Although I've always heard, and I haven't verified this myself, I've always heard that Ishikawa, the prefecture we live in, is the best for natural disasters. Like, we get some of the least natural disasters.
Least destructive. Although we do have that, like, trapped water under the peninsula.
So I thought it was fake.
No, I saw an article about it.
Yeah, there's a news article about it, that the water comes down in the bedrock, and then as it, you know, melts in the core, the water gets released, and then it gets trapped in a pocket. So apparently there could actually be little pockets of water up there in Noto.
Yeah, we're on an airbed or a water mattress right now.
Yeah, it's
big
just
old
shaking
earth
around.
Water mattress.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we don't have any more scary earthquakes, but we've been really, like, it hasn't been that scary where we are, you know.
No. So, and it is, like, I think it's pretty interesting to experience it.
Well, afterwards, yeah.
Well, I mean, even in the moment, it's just such a, like...
Shocking.
Well, yeah, and just, I mean, when... It's a pretty, well, I mean, to us, a unique experience.
Really? I was, like, sitting on the couch, like, should we, like, leave? Should we get under the table? Should I, like, do something? And you were like, this is amazing. Nature is great.
I mean, yeah, a certain part of me was pretty fascinated by the fact the earth is moving.
Well, once it stopped shaking, I was like, that was cool. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I like, obviously I don't want anyone to get hurt or there to be any larger earthquakes. But the idea that that's what's happening, I don't know. It's pretty impressive. Well,
we mentioned our friend that's visiting, and he's not in our house right now because he's on a little bikepacking trip.
Yeah, and so that's what we ended up doing during Golden Week, was he landed on Wednesday, which was my first day off work, the holiday. And yeah, he landed on Wednesday and came, like, straight over here to Kanazawa. So it's been fun.
We picked him up, and we can fit a bike box in the back of the K car.
Well, not just a bike box. Like, so he's
very tall.
He's like 6'5".
He stands out in a crowd here.
196 centimeters or something. He's a tall boy. So his bike is like a double XL or something.
So for anyone, like, bringing a bike, we shipped our bikes directly to our place, and you can ship your bike directly to a hotel. He flew with it checked, but he flew with it in a large box. And in case you are also listening and coming to Japan and you are also a tall person, your bike might exceed...
Or even not that tall.
Well, he has a mountain bike in this box, so it's a very large box. Larger than what it would be if we packed our, like, road bikes down. Yeah. But measure your box and try to get it under 200 centimeters, like, total, like, length, width, height, because 200 centimeters is the max for Yamato transport. And so they have, like, an airport takyubin service where when you get to the airport, you can pay them to just deliver your bike, to, like, forward it to your hotel or wherever you're staying. And we told him to do that, especially because it's Golden Week. We were like, you don't want to take that on the Shinkansen. And when he arrived, the takyubin service was like, oh, we're not taking your box. It's too big.
Yeah. Which I felt so bad about because I knew that there was the 200 centimeter restriction.
Yeah. Well, there's the weight restriction, and he was well under the weight just because bikes aren't that
I just kind of
heavy.
figured if it could fit on the airplane, it would also fit in the, like, takyubin, like, service.
Right. Well,
and so that's why I was kind of, when he said, they won't take it, I
didn't think that they had a limit because they'll deliver couches. Like, they'll deliver furniture, but not at the airport service.
And I've even learned that apparently that's a separate service. It's called, like, Home Goods or something. And so you have to go, I think, to a legitimate big Yamato like headquarters, and then you talk to them about home goods shipping.
Oh.
Because they'll ship motorcycles and cars and couches.
But not things over 200 centimeters from the airport.
And then the next thing that was rough is he tried to take his bike onto the Narita Express.
Like the airport shuttle.
Yeah, and apparently they told him no. He went to try and buy a ticket, and someone came running out, and they were like, you can't do that. And so then I was getting concerned. Was too big. Yeah, because then I was like, well, is he going to be stuck in Narita Airport? Like, how's he going to... Because he needed to make it to Tokyo Station to get on the Shinkansen to come here to Kanazawa. And finally... And I was like... He was in the airport, and I was like Googling and reading online about what to do. And I finally saw that someone said that the airport limousine bus let them take their bike. Yeah. And so he went and talked to those guys, and apparently the bus driver was like, yeah, man, we'll take that thing to Tokyo.
Yeah, God bless the bus drivers.
Yeah, so then I felt bad, though, because then he got dropped off, at a bus stop. Yeah. And so he had to walk into Tokyo Station.
It's nowhere near as convenient.
This massive box.
He said it was like a 10-minute walk, which doesn't sound very far, but any minute where you're like lugging a huge box is
10 minutes,
eternity.
And he was carrying what, a 30-pound
he said
cardboard
he was
box.
Like taking out families and stuff because the box is so wide, like your turning radius is like larger than a human arm span. Yeah. But he made it.
That's what made me look into, if you buy like certain bike bags and cases, they are much smaller. Like ours is under the 200 centimeters. Yeah. So we could ship ours through Yamato.
Yeah, just something to think about if you're flying over here with a bike. And if it is unavoidable, like maybe you're bringing an e-bike or something, then the bus is an option.
But yeah, except e-bikes, you can't fly with the batteries and stuff. Oh, yeah. So it's a bit of a bummer.
So don't do that.
And also Japan's one of the countries that they have the lower regulations. Oh. So I think technically it's illegal to bring an e-bike from the United States to Japan.
Because the speed, the
because in the United
States
you can ride them faster.
Just throttle that thing.
Yeah. The good news is that the Shinkansen worked for him, so in the back row of seats on a Shinkansen, usually there's a little gap between the last seats and the wall, and he was able to slide his bike box in there. Yeah. So he said the Shinkansen was actually super easy. Like once he got on it. Thank goodness,
because that is like a hack, but it's a hack that you'll read on like every travel tips, and they're like,
I know, and everything else I told him was wrong about like being able to take it on Narita Express, because other people said that they had taken it on there.
Just not a box that big.
Yeah, and then also telling him about Yamato, and I was like, oh no, like he's gonna go to get on the Shinkansen, and they're gonna tell him.
Well, I just figured it would be full because everyone knows about it, so sometimes people won't bother making the reservation to store your luggage, and they're like, well, I'll just gamble and like slide it in there. I'll just be first on the train. But if everyone's like first on the train, I just thought there wouldn't be any room.
I think he said that it was surprisingly empty.
That's good.
Yeah. Which maybe people had already...
Yeah, it's the middle of Golden Week.
Yeah, they had already come to Kanazawa, so then not many people were heading that way still.
Well, he made it, and now the bike is together, and he's out somewhere in the mountains of, like, Gifu.
Yeah, depending on what time he wakes up. He's in just a little south of Shirakawa-go. Yeah. He was staying at a campsite there.
His photos were really pretty, by the way.
They're really nice, yeah.
And you helped him book a campsite, so I guess do you want to talk about what... We haven't personally experienced
So the one that he's staying in now, I helped him book, but it was a very loose experience. Okay. So in Japan, you'll run into this as a foreigner. Sometimes it's a little intimidating that the only way to make a booking is to call, which for us is, because they're Japanese, isn't good. Yeah, it's not a fun experience. But they had an option that you could use Line.
It was just like the text app.
Yeah, which if I have time to compose a message and then I have time to like decipher what they're saying. So I was like, oh, great, I'll text them. So that's what I did. I just added the campsite's account online and then sent him a message. I was like, hey, I have a friend, which then they asked for his name in katakana. So I was like, oh, it's Kairu. And then I gave him his last name. Yeah. But his name is Kyle. But I guess it translates as Kairu.
Kairu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, Kairu's coming. But they had a pretty strict check-in time. You had to check in by 5 p.m., which at one point I got a little worried.
You're right, because he's biking over.
But by the time I left him, he had 3.5 hours. No, almost 4.5 hours to make it there.
And how much was the campsite for the night?
I think 600 yen.
Wow.
super cheap.
Like $5.
As much as these microphone arms.
Yeah.
But and then they also had like a neat it looked like they had a restaurant, a little cafe.
Yeah, which she said that's maybe why the time was so strict.
Maybe.
Because he had a really nice looking dinner.
It did look really good.
And it was around like it was like a square
like a wood stove.
benches or square table set up that the center was a wood stove.
It was pretty neat looking.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was going because it's still a little chilly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a pretty painless experience. They do say though that if you don't make it to the, like, they don't have a, penalty for if you don't check in, because obviously you pay in cash when you get there. But they were like, we'll like ban your account. Or like, if you ever try and call us, I guess they write down the phone number, they like have you online.
Wow.
And so they're like, we won't accept reservations. So then when I was like worried if he was going to be late too, I was like, oh no. I was like, we'll have to add him on your line account.
Wow. That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
I'm
but
glad that he made it.
And so
I was just trying to Google, like, can you camp anywhere in Japan the same way that you can, like, in national forests in America? And I don't think you can.
I think, so it's kind of similar, like
unauthorized camping outside of a campground.
In a lot of places in Europe, it's also illegal, but people have this idea that it's fine and it's legal and you can do it. You're not supposed to, but a lot of people do. So I feel like Japan's a little bit of the same. Like, you're not supposed to just camp anywhere. But I think people do it because, so for instance, that book that I really like, The Roads to Sada, when he walks from,
okay, but that was like in the 70s. So,
well, that's my point, is that he was doing that in the 70s. Like, he would pretty much always stay in a ryokan or a menshuku, but occasionally he was like in the middle of nowhere and he was like, I'm just going to sleep underneath that
probably
pagoda.
Do that, but that's not ideal. I mean, you shouldn't do that if it's illegal.
I mean,
Zeb's like, I'm going to sleep wherever I want in the woods. But
if I'm not hurting anybody. And
but you don't want to like risk any issues. But luckily, I read that there's 3,000 campsites in the country.
There are a lot of campsites.
So it shouldn't be too hard to find one that you just pay like a couple bucks and you can put your tent up.
Yeah, so. And I guess benefit, it would be super pretty. Mm-hmm. And they did a thing where you could like rent a tent, but the amount that they were charging to rent it was, you just go buy a tent.
Well, almost. He bought one at 2nd Street, and they had a ton of... 2nd Street is the same secondhand shop that we bought this furniture in, and they had a ton of camping gear.
They did, but it was all camping gear. Like, Japan's pretty funny that it's camping gear that is pretty much car camping.
Well, that's a very popular thing, and it might be because...
You wouldn't be able to toss it in a backpack and take it. They were like the tents that are, the big...
Very heavy family
like circus tent style. Like,
but his was like super lightweight.
Yeah, his was the only one.
Oh, it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess car camping is very popular because there are so many campsites. You could just drive up. But...
Yeah, when he was looking at campsites on Google, he was making fun of it because he said that every single Google review was really just a subtle like flex of their car camping setup, because they would have a photo of like the car, and then they'd have, the super big like stoves, and like sometimes people take like shelving and they set it up kind of inside their tent, and they make but at that point it's, why aren't you just in your living room?
Oh, because you drive around and you like open your car door and you're in these like stunning environments.
Yeah, except it probably took the poor dad or whoever like 5 hours to get all that set up, and had to pull the tent out and build the shelves.
I'm all about it. If I had like a cool van set up car thing where I could drive campsites, I'd do that all the time. I like regular camping too, but it just seems really appealing to like just whip out your full kitchen setup.
It's like whipping it out. It's like in boxes and stuff, and you have to pull all the boxes out and then unbox it. And then, I don't know.
Well, so to plan his route, he used a combo of like Strava and Gaia. And Gaia is more trail stuff, but that's an app that is really helpful because you can download and then use it like when you don't have cell signal. So if you're in the mountains and you're worried about stuff and you come across something where you can't pass, like our trip to Noto, you could pull up an app like that and it would let you like see the map without signal.
Yeah. Which admittedly, our bike computers do that too.
To a certain extent, but they're much harder to like navigate. Mine is very hard. All I can do is zoom in and out.
Well, yeah, but that's why we pre-make the routes and then put the routes on there.
It's just if something like came up and you can't do your route.
Which we were trying to tell them. We were like, you can just borrow one of our bike computers. I was like, I'll just look at my phone. Like, I think I'll be good.
Well, he made it.
Yeah, I'm just a little worried when he starts doing more complicated stuff. Because I rode with him all the way out of like all the little roads. And then once he was on the one main road, I was kind of like, all right, you turn right here and I'm going to turn left. And when you turn right, you just stay on this road.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. And it's just fun to like explore by bike. So that's all he's got, planned for the day.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear about it.
Me
and
too.
Hopefully we can go on more bike packing stuff before rainy season starts. Although we do not really bike packing. We do like...
I mean, admittedly, what he's doing is
credit card
really
camping.
Bike packing.
It's way more bike packing than what we've been doing.
He's taking a tent.
He's a tent and a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
So
if we got a tent and a sleeping bag, you would have to get some bike bags.
I'd have to carry stuff again.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Which is fine. I'll carry it as long as you slow down. So we can have both.
We'll just start doing separate rides. I'll just meet you at the campsite.
Oh my gosh. Well, yesterday, to get off of the bike topic, I went on a strawberry tour.
It was a bunch of old people. Older than normal.
So yeah, it was a bus tour, which I guess that attracts elderly people because everything was taken care of. Me and my friends went, and there were the three of us. We took over like the whole back, like very back row of the bus, and then it was like a bunch of elderly people, and they just take care of you, you just get on the bus, they take you to the site, then you get back on the bus, they take you to lunch, then you get back on the bus, very easy. So, although I will say that like it was way more of a bus tour as the activity because we were in the bus as long or longer than we were out of the bus.
Yeah.
So, but it was beautiful. So we rode from Kanazawa and then was like a tour along the coast up to Noto on the peninsula. And actually, I was a little afraid we weren't going to be able to do it because of the earthquakes, but the tour planners checked everything out and they were like, everything's fine. So
yeah, it just sounded a bit like, something, it sounded fun, but then even your friend, didn't she like show you on her phone?
She was like, there are
a lot of elderly people on here. It sounded like the kind of thing that, is kind of for older people that don't really have a lot going on.
I guess, but it was just real cozy.
Don't have anything happening that day. Except you said they were kind of rushed. Like the old people would get off the bus, do like 10 minutes of the activity, and they would just go sit on the bus.
Well, they were just like, all right, we're good. That was all we wanted. So me and my friends kept being the last people to get back on the bus, and I was like, we must be slow. But the first thing we did was drive out and stop at a strawberry like farm. And it was all you can pick, all you can eat for 30 minutes. So we were like, chipmunks, like trying to shove as many strawberries in our mouths. But I think I got full before the 30 minutes. So
yeah,
there's only so many strawberries you can enjoy.
Yeah, in 30 minutes.
I was like, all right, that was fun and plenty of strawberries. And I got a little box to take home so you could try some. So maybe for breakfast we'll have some strawberries and yogurt.
Yeah, that sounds good. I do like strawberries.
Yeah.
But in Japan, they really like strawberries.
Well, they're very seasonal, and I don't know, my friend was saying that this specific variety is very delicate, and so it's difficult to transport, and so I
do feel like they say that about a lot of things.
I don't know. Although, like, the strawberries that I got in the box and brought back to you, they were in, like, a bag for the rest of the bus trip. So, like, 5 hours, they were in, like, their carton in the plastic bag, and they ripened even more. Like, now they're, like, perfectly soft and ripe, but like tomorrow they'll probably be like squishy. So that happened fast. But after the strawberry picking, we went and had lunch, and all of us were pleasantly surprised by lunch. I didn't really know, like there was no description that I got of the lunch, and I was like, okay, maybe it's like a sandwich, like I don't know, like a bag lunch for everybody.
A little PB&J. Yeah,
but it was like a washoku, like traditional Japanese set kind of lunch with all the little dishes.
Yeah.
And there was rice and of course soup. And then they had a tempura set and a sashimi set. And there was also this egg custard what is it called? Chawan mushi, which is like a savory egg custard with like shellfish kind of stuff inside.
I've had that before.
Yeah. And there was a little ginkgo, like a ginkgo nut in there that I'd never had that before. It's like a bitter chestnut. It was good. And the final stop was to see the Squid King.
Yeah, which I was worried about how he how he did in the earthquake.
He did fine.
Yeah,
He's used to the
if he got
rocky motion of the ocean.
Yeah, I just didn't know if his like little squid arms would have gotten snapped off. He's never experienced an earthquake that big before.
No, well, maybe, but no, I don't think so because he's pretty new.
Yeah.
So,
and the last big Noto earthquake, the teacher that I work with was telling me was like 13 years ago, and she said it wasn't as big as this one.
Interesting. Well, so that Squid King we've talked about before, but he's this big squid statue that's in Noto, and controversially, he was built with the equivalent of $228,000 of COVID relief money that the town got.
Basically, the town of Suzu was like...
No, Noto. Not
Isn't
Suzu.
It in Suzu?
No, we didn't go all the way to Suzu.
I thought the Squid King was in Suzu.
No, he's in Noto. But they were like, come to Noto, we have a squid now.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to take all that COVID money and put it into this squid statue.
But the joke's kind of on them now, on like the people who were hating on it now, because last year they published an article that said that they've gotten back tourism dollars 22-fold because they have this roadside station that's right next to the squid that's filled with like omiyage souvenirs that you can buy, and of course everybody likes to buy things. We bought stuff while we were there, and the other old people just like filled up their carts with stuff too. We were just buying all kinds of trinkets, and so a year ago it was paid off 22-fold. So it just keeps making money, I guess.
I mean, Japan is kind of known for that. There will be like these weird little landmarks that for whatever reason people are like, yeah, that's cool. Like
it was cool. We took our picture with it, but then we were like, oh, we got to get in the bus. Everybody's waiting for us.
Yeah, all the old people are like, look, we're done here.
Yeah.
I got to get home for my afternoon nap.
I brought back some strawberries, of course, some coffee from Noto. There's a bunch of sea salt and like sea salt kind of.
Yeah, it's because in Noto they do the traditional. They bring like the seawater onto land and they put it in fields and they let it dry.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah. But they had all kinds of like rice seasonings. And so if you go there, you can get that. And they had like sake and beer. And then the other thing I got,
they had squids, which thankfully you didn't buy squid.
They have like whole freezer squid in packets.
Not into that.
They have all kinds of squid stuff. And they even had squid ice cream, which I didn't get, but...
Also not into that.
I think for the novelty of it, maybe. But
I would maybe like try it. But
just fish and ice cream, none of that sounds good.
I mean, maybe it's just like Squid Ink ice cream.
They
like
did have Squid Ink ice cream, but I was asking my friend, like, is this actually squid ice cream? And she's like, yeah, it looks like it's like the inside of squid.
Oh.
Yeah. Which maybe that doesn't taste fishy.
So it'd have like squid chunks?
I didn't buy it. Instead, I bought a different ice cream that said the flavor was Natsuhaze, and Natsu is summer, and so I was like, summer. Oh, is it summer or something? And they were like, no, it has nothing to do with summer. It's actually the name of Japanese blueberries. Because apparently the blueberry that like you and I think of, they have that here, and it's just called blueberry, like blueberry in katakana. They just type it out. And this is one that apparently is also in Europe, and it's the Oldham blueberry, and it's a little more tart. It might also be known as the bilberry. Oh. The wimberry. The whortleberry.
The whortle? The whortleberry.
But in Japan, it's the Natsuhaze. And it was good. It was like a blackberry mixed with a blueberry. But
sounds pretty tasty.
Tried that for the first time.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, they hadn't either. We had to Google it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you eating?
Yeah, some berries. But it was a fun day. And then we got brought back, and we also stopped at another like roadside station, like a bathroom stop on the way, and they had a ton of plants for sale, and I bought a plant.
Yeah, so she came back with all kinds of stuff.
To be fair, the plant was like $3. Yeah. And it was a ranunculus.
I don't even know what that is,
very pretty
but now
flower.
I do. Yeah. I can go look at it whenever I want to.
It's getting some sun in the kitchen right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's our next thing, is now that we have the car, we can go buy more plants.
Fill this room up with plants.
Be cool.
Yeah. And so it's already Wednesday. We're a day late on this podcast, but
I'm recording it, but maybe not releasing it if
we'll see.
Do a lot of editing today.
Well, but what we're looking forward to this weekend is the Kite Festival. That's what I'm looking forward to.
The World Kite Festival.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
I don't know if it's the World Kite Festival.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's called.
Really?
Yeah, when you see the translation, it's like Sekai no, like... Oh. Yeah.
Well, that's a big deal.
So, I don't know how they got that designation.
Well, hopefully it's cool. It's happening on the beach. It's really close to us, so we'll let you know how the
and
kites
hopefully
go.
Kyle's back from his bikepacking trip. He's supposed to get back on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we can drag him down there and show him some kites.
And then we can give you details on how the bikepacking went, the rest of that. But don't forget to, if you write us a review and you email that you did, and you email me your mailing address so I can send you a postcard, we'll send you a postcard.
Hand painted.
One
of a kind.
I got 5 left. And if you were the very kind person that left one in November and you email us, I'd be happy to mail you a postcard also if you want one. Yeah. Because I did not give you the credit earlier. So.
And remember that it's only on Apple. They're the only place that lets you do written reviews, I think. Spotify doesn't. So far. But if you're feeling super nice, you can just click some stars on Spotify.
Yeah, no effort.
No, you just click some stuff and then bam, reviewed. Well, and then you'll feel good about yourself.
Well, I hope so. I don't know.
Because, it'll make us happy.
Anyway, what is your word of the week?
So mine, I'm pretty sure I haven't used this before, is hige. Have I used that before?
I don't think so. Okay. It sounds kind of like the Swedish word for cozy or whatever.
Oh, hige. Yeah, this one's hige. Okay. Like H-I-G-E, hige. It means beard.
Beard.
Yeah.
Because you have one.
Just fun little tidbit.
Well, I was afraid you would take my word, which is jishin, which is earthquake.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah, so now we felt a pretty big jishin.
We did. Upper 6. Well, not here. But
no, we didn't feel an upper 6.
Here was 3.
Yeah, much more manageable. But thanks for listening if you've listened all the way to the end, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Yeah. So don't forget to tune in, and of course send us an email at ramblingramsbothams@gmail.com, or like we said, leave us a review, or you can follow us on Instagram. So thanks for listening.